This is the network service of the NTA.
Yes, we started, revealing our cassava story yesterday on the show, and it was quite, engaging because we got to find out different aspects of cassava and how it's being produced, the way we consume it, and what we can do differently in order to fully maximize the potential of cassava crop in the country. And you all know that we are the largest producer of this, product in the entire globe. And I'm not sure if we have actually understood the value of this product, because there's so much we can, achieve from this product. Because today we still import wheat, and then at some point I know that bakers were encouraged to infuse 10 to 20% of cassava flour in the mix of bread production, but all that is still in the process. So we still have much to do as far as our cassava story is concerned in Nigeria. Welcome to the studios of Weekend Deal. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show. My name is Suleiman Babajiao Osman. Okay, thank you for staying with us. And yes, we started that story yesterday. That is our cassava story in Nigeria. We all know that we have a lot of potential when it comes to harnessing the, cassava production in the country. But we know that we are not where we want to be as a nation as far as this issue is concerned. But let's just take this background report, and after that we begin to reveal some other features and engage our guests to see how we can get to the promised land as far as our cassava story is concerned. So let's take this background report from Francis Obe.
One of the major food crops that has placed Nigeria on the global stage is cassava, as the country is the largest cassava producer globally, accounting for about 21% of total production worldwide. Originally a crop of South America, it was introduced into Nigeria's southern part during the period of slave trade, proliferated by Portuguese explorers and colonizers in the 16th century. There are more than 40 cassava varieties in use today.
25% of cassava needed worldwide is being produced in Nigeria. And it will be interesting for you to know that Benue State, Kogi State are the major front line in terms of cassava productions, Cross River, Ekiti, and other states. But despite this, yes, we've not actually utilized the potential in cassava production.
Cassava is grown throughout the year, making it preferable to the seasonal crops of yam, beans, or peas. It displays an exceptional ability to adapt to climate change. Use of fertilizer is limited, and it's also grown on fallow lands. Harvesting of the roots after planting varies from 6 months to 3 years.
There are a lot of benefits and value that you get from cassava, not just consuming into gari or other form of edible or chips that you fry today, you have it. Starch is needed globally in terms of pharmaceutical industry. Now, if it comes to the issue of textile industries, cassava is needed.
Over the years, the supply of cassava derivatives in Nigeria has fallen short of demand. For instance, the demand for high-quality cassava flour for bread, biscuit, and snacks is put at 500,000 metric tons per annum, but supply is less than 15,000 metric tons.
Most of the flour we are using today in Nigeria are being imported. You also have to process that cassava into flour for you to be able to use it to produce bread. But when you don't have the mill that now process the cassava into flour, how do you take it now into bakery and now have a bread?
While there are many industries in Nigeria, such as those involved in the production of ethanol, food noodles, textiles, pharmaceuticals, and paper mills, among others which need cassava products, very few cassava processing factories are available compared to the optimum market potentials.
The cocoa productions, Africa owns it today, and it's a over $150 billion industry. But the country today that has cocoa, what did they get? They get 3 to 5 billion annually, simply because they don't manufacture chocolate, but they produce cocoa. So if you produce cassava and you don't produce starch, you're going to get less value, because the value chain that needed to give you that optimal, you did not invest here. You are only looking at the initial, but the end product, which gives you the byproduct, you did not invest here.
Taking advantage of Nigeria's strength in cassava production, if well harnessed, cannot be overstated.
Government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and CBN, intervene in terms of milling, where you are bringing a partner who has the capital plus government policy and go into that. It's a different sector. So that when the people now produce, because if I set up an industry that possible, it needed about 10 tons a day for cassava, I must be able to know that the farmers are there who will give it to me. Now we're already getting that one, because for you to say Nigeria 25% cassava, that shows we are doing well in terms of cultivations. But now set up another, that now the milling difference value chain in agriculture, then you have gotten it right.
The theme for Weekend Deal this week is tagged Our Cassava Story.
Well, for some say for us to fully maximize the potential of cassava production in the country, you know, the triangle of productivity, processing and rural infrastructure must be met, plus, you know, rejigging the cassava policy we have in place in the country. And I dare say that this policy has been, you know, ongoing since maybe 1982 or thereabout. I know successive government come up with different policies in order to, you know, improve production and use of cassava for different purposes in the country. And we all know that if we get it right, certainly it will add value to the economy of the country. But we know that we have about 40, you know, different varieties of cassava in use in the country. And that is exactly what our next story will focus on. This one is put together from NTA Ibadan. So let's see this.
No doubt, cassava is one of the major popular and important food crops in Nigeria. The perennial woody shrub with edible roots originated from tropical America and was first introduced into Africa in the Congo Basin in 1558 by the Portuguese. Today, Nigeria has the record of being the largest producer of cassava in the world. Cassava, which belongs to the species called Maniote esculenta, has about 4,000 local varieties found in 17 major cassava growing countries in Africa.
We have TME 419. That one is of mustache. In fact, it's the one that those companies that is processing cassava starch, the likes of cassava starch, the flours, they master those ones. We have TMS 2324. That one too is what we call here as egedudu. Is because we are fond of processing gari around here. So that is why we are using that 2324. Then we have another one that they call TMS 30572. That 30572 is of a little more starch too than that of a gedudu. Then we have one TMS 98/98. They call it /98. That means they develop those ones in 1998 and the host of others.
Yet, research continues to come up with the best cassava varieties with short growth cycle, high yield, which can withstand extreme conditions. According to a recent data, the world cassava production stood at 278 million tons, while Africa is responsible for 170 million tons, out of which Nigeria accounts for 60 million tons of the cassava production. However, more than 90% of the cassava are consumed locally, majorly as food, while a small fraction are for industrial uses. Traditionally, the most popular and common products from cassava in Nigeria include garri, fufu, akpu, cassava flour, otherwise known as lafun in the southwestern Nigeria, edible starch, and tapioca. Different ethnic groups in Nigeria have various methods in preparation and processing of cassava, from peeling cassava roots to soaking, grating, grinding, pressing, sieving, heating, and drying. The cassava is also eaten boiled, pounded, or roasted, while the leaves as well can be prepared as vegetable soup.
If you look at the trend currently, wheat prices are beginning to go up, and therefore cassava is beginning to provide an opportunity where bakers can actually substitute that or make a composite in wheat flour and therefore save costs and still get money. It is an opportunity for farmers because they now have a market, more market for their products.
In spite of being the major producer of cassava, there are increasing concerns regarding the sustainability of available cassava products to Nigeria households as a result of increasing demand by the expanding agro-allied industries using cassava as critical input. Certainly, cassava has great potentials as crop of the future in Nigeria's struggles to attain household food sufficiency and security, and meeting high demand for industrial uses through increased production and utilization.
All right. Of course, from that report, we can say that, having just 10% for industrial use of cassava is nowhere near, enough. So there's a whole lot we need to do as a nation as far as that is concerned, because, if we are the largest producer of cassava, then we should, feature prominently when it comes to the exportation of the same product. Well, during the week, NTA Ibadan had a chat with Dr. Debo Akinde. He is the head of agribusiness that is of IITA Ibadan, that is International Institute of Tropic Agriculture. And trust me, it is worth your time. So let's join this interview.
Nigeria is supposed to be one of the largest producers of cassava, if not the largest, especially in Africa. But I think currently we are not doing as much as expected for diverse reasons. Of course, what many of us know, the areas where cassava production are mostly done in the Middle Belt, Oyo State, and the Southwest as well. And quite a lot is going on in terms of farmer herders clashes for quite some times now. So that has reduced the ability of the smaller farmers to engage in this particular area to do what's needed in that particular area. Beyond that as well, the problem of climate change, which we're all grappling with, is something that has affected cassava production as well. And I think the last thing that I would mention that might probably have also affected production level is the issue of a seed production for cassava and the processing as well. When farmers can't find the right kind of market at the right price, then they get discouraged as usual. So all this put together has been a major issue around cassava production within the country. There was a presidential initiative on cassava, I think under President Obasanjo, if I remember precisely, or after him, where a lot that could be done in relation to cassava was made known to us in the country, supported by a lot of scientific work. And during that period, we see how much cassava could do, not just for food production or livelihood, but also to support the economy. What I can say was very significant during that period was that we have a percentage of cassava that we were going to substitute wheat with. I mean, with wheat. We know how much we spend on wheat importation into the country for production of diverse conventionaries. So what was done then was that rather than using wheat, we combined the use of wheat and cassava, and that reduced the money we are spending on importation of wheat within the country. But I think this particular area has been jettisoned. It hasn't been followed through, and so now we haven't been seeing much done in relation to that. As at then, I know very well that most of the bakeries that are producing bread within the country has already started engaging in mixing cassava with wheat to produce a percentage of the wheat production. I think around 30% of it was cassava, 30 or 40% was cassava. And that same thing applies to every other conventionaries as well. But of late, I don't think this is really the case any longer. And of course, like any other value chain of agriculture, once the market is not there, once the market is lopsided, and the issues around market, it affects the production as it were. So, I mean, according to the expert in cassava, they've told us that we can do close to around over 30 things that we can do, we can use cassava for. I've just mentioned a couple of them. We can use cassava for cassava bread, as I've said earlier. Beyond cassava bread, most of the starch that we use that for industrial starch, we get it from cassava. Of course, we all know about the cassava flour and gari and all what have you. Beyond that as well, there are medicinal impact that we can get from cassava. What people don't even know is that the leaves from cassava in some culture, I'm very aware about the Fritonian and some culture within the country, are consumed, and these are highly nutritious. So beyond that, many other things that we can use it for are there for cake, for diverse area. At least I'm aware around 32 of them that we can engage in. That you say we are over 100 million or we're close to 200 million as a population. And we have a high middle class population among us. Are we producing enough for ourselves? I'm aware that sometime this year, the price of gari, which is quite a common staple food within probably the southwest or the whole of Nigeria, skyrocketed. The question is that why was that the case? Of course, after some time the price went down because harvesting started and things like that. But we need to ensure that we start focusing on that particular value chain, the downstream, the midstream, and the upstream of the cassava value chain, to ensure that for seed production, we're doing enough. For processing, we are doing enough. For market, we are doing enough. If we are not engaging in all this area, then it becomes an issue. For export, it might not necessarily even be the cassava itself, because I'm not even going to support that we export cassava. It's even could be a little bit difficult to do. But we have enough processing companies within the country to process it to diverse derivatives, that can now be exported. For example, starch is something that is in a high demand globally. How much of the starch companies do we have locally to produce from cassava? So if we don't have all this in place, and then we go back to if we said that we don't have many of the processing companies, have we provided the enabling environment and the right policy to ensure that the private sector that will be producing these are engaged? So all this added together are key critical factors that has not made us to engage probably in local consumption or for international trade.
Well, Dr. Debo Akinde, there, talking about, how we can really maximize the potential of cassava in the country. Yes, I agree with him with some of the suggestions, and then we know that definitely there must be, rejigging of that policy to ensure that we walk the talk. And yes. Our next report comes from Ijoma, and then she's talking about the place of cassava in pharmaceuticals. Of course, you know from our previous reports that cassava is very vast. It's a product that can be, used for different ends made. So this certainly is one of them. After that, we have another guest who just joined us.
The pharmaceutical industry is one sector that uses modified starch from corn and other grains to produce medicine. In producing drugs, starch serves as a filler material and bonding agent for producing tablets in powder formulation. More so, pharmaceutical manufacturers in Nigeria that produce cough syrup utilize byproducts like crystalline and liquid glucose imported from Corn Products Corporation to manufacture syrup. Meanwhile, these elements are richly endowed in cassava starch, yet we import them.
For most pharmaceutical manufacture, maize starch is used. Reason why maize starch is used, find out that the formula of most of the drugs that we have are usually developed outside Nigeria, and they use those that they have relative capabilities of producing. And the industry that develop those excipients and those raw materials are different. So, but in Nigeria, there's no company, no manufacturer that produces pharmaceutical grade starch, whether maize, whether cassava, whether any sort. So it's only if government comes in, just as they did for rice.
Every year, tons of starch are imported into Nigeria by drug manufacturers to produce tablets, capsules, and syrup, irrespective of numerous research and certification that Nigeria's cassava starch can be a viable substitute for imported cornstarch in drug production.
In NIPRID, we have a pilot drug manufacturing unit for pilot production. I'm the coordinator of that unit. So when we do these productions, we have to run them as if you are producing industrially. We've done this with cassava starch, with our microcrystalline cellulose. And you find out that NIPRID is to do research and not to commercialize. So we've actually gone a long way in developing cassava for use for pharmaceutical manufacture of especially tablets and capsules.
Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world, with an annual output of over 40 million tons, and the demand for starch is fast increasing. And one wonders, why are there no indigenous company investing in this gold mine of pharmaceutical grade cassava starch?
If maybe United States were those producing cassava, definitely you know that the world will be using cassava to produce their pharmaceuticals. So which means we have relative advantage of using cassava. But because no indigenous company or manufacturer or producer is producing pharmaceutical grade cassava starch, yet you find out that they still rely on importation of maize starch.
However, there are growing concerns over the safety usage of pharmaceutical grade starch.
For pharmaceutical manufacture, cassava starch is as good as any other starch, and we can use that. So it requires for us to start producing it ourselves.
As part of government support towards the development of cassava production, the Central Bank of Nigeria in November 2019 signed a memorandum of understanding with the Nigeria Cassava Growers Association and large-scale cassava processors to implement coordinated approach that would guarantee better yield.
You see, cassava itself has been developed and used for all those things that maize starch has been used for. Had it been, maybe we have a company, maybe an industry that is producing pharmaceutical grade starch or producing starch from cassava in Nigeria. You find out the byproducts, the fiber, can be used to produce cellulose, microcrystalline cellulose, which is even very expensive for pharmaceutical manufacture because it's used for direct compression of tablets. You don't need to follow many processes that using of starch follows. It can be used. And we've already done that research in NIPRID. It's on the shelf.
All right, my guest is actually, concurring to some of the, issues raised in that report. And let's just quickly introduce him. He's a deputy director. He's a deputy director from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. His name is Mr. Raji Hakim Bamidele. Is the deputy director, Root and Tuber Division, Cassava Dex Officer. You are welcome to our studios.
Thank you.
You have been patiently watching our reports, interviews, over the last 30 minutes, and then I'm sure you must have been taking your notes, making observations. But quickly, let's talk about cassava policy in the country. I know right from 1982, we've had several policies in place. That government, the government of Obasanjo, government of Goodluck Jonathan, and presently, what has happened? Is it that these policies are not really, in tandem with the reality on ground, that we have actually not gotten to where we want to be when we talk about cassava production and its uses in the country?
The cassava production and policy has started a long way. And it is increasing, and it has started since early 1992. It started from National Agricultural Seed Council, when they increased from there in 1992, before the 2004, when from 1992 it's moved to cassava multiplication project. From cassava multiplication project, it moved to a project came out of that, which is root and tuber development. That was in the early 90s. After that, it now came out with Obasanjo regime that come up with well-known, it's improve it to cassava presidential initiative on cassava. That is the essence of the presidential initiative of cassava. The previous policy focuses on multiplication, increasing production. It was along the way when the rate of increasing production started to be rising. That was why the Obasanjo administration now wants to add values and brought about value chain into it in the presidential initiative of cassava. It was that policy that now led to expansion of cassava. And how do we increase the value chain? Is by increasing the value. That was what brought about the uses of high quality cassava flour and all other added value, the ethanol, starch. All those ones brought about research into ethanol, starch, and all other additive pharmaceutical tools. These are the policies are all increasing, and it is expanding the uses of cassava.
One of our guests made mention of shared his experience of testing a particular boiled cassava that is sold in the north, and then he encouraged people to eat that particular, product. But I'm just wondering, are there specific, species of cassava that is better suited to different geopolitical zones in the country?
He was talking of vitamin A cassava. It is called yellow cassava. This cassava is good, and in addition to that, we have sweet cassava. This one is specifically sweet, and it has been developed to have less concentration of cyanide, because that's one of the major disadvantage of people where cassava has this. Researchers has done so many, developed so many varieties with less concentration. So that sweet cassava has less of cyanide. And similarly too, yellow cassava too has vitamin A, which any malnutrition or any people for food nutrition security, we can easily take. These are the varieties that is being advised for any people, for people with malnutrition, people that need more of a nutrient. These are the varieties being recommended for them.
Let's quickly talk about processing, because I know even the last administration, dedicated some fund to ensuring that we have more of this. When the issue of cassava bread, came on board, there was, an cassava bread intervention fund or something like that.
Yes.
All right. Where are we now with that, fund? What has happened to it, and has it really, achieved its main purpose? Because today I go to vendors and then you can't really see a cassava bread anywhere.
Cassava bread is everywhere, and it is called composite flour. Mm-hmm. And it is not only cassava bread, cassava that is added to the flour. The essence of the policy is to reduce the level of wheat we were using,
which is about 6.1 billion US dollars annually.
That is then, and to infuse most of our crop commodities. It is not only cassava that is being suggested. Sorghum too is part of the crop that is being suggested. Cassava too is part of the crop. Orange flesh, potato, sweet potato, these are all that when we can use the high concentration quality of this commodity, it should reduce our importation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the one that was, outlined or lined up was cassava, to be specific.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we've done anything with sorghum and the orange flakes you're talking about.
Activities are going on all those ones. That is what I was saying, that we have issue of collating accurate data.
Okay.
Though it is, even many bakers uses those commodity with what they are doing, but they may be underreported.
Okay. The idea is to ensure that we increase production and maximize the potential of cassava production in the country. And part of it is actually the cassava bread initiative. And of course, the master bakers will be talking to us very soon to see how they have fared so far as that is concerned. Thank you very much, Mr. Raji Bamidele. He is the Deputy Director, Root and Tuber Division Cassava Desk Officer of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Right now we go on a break, and after that the show continues, so please stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. We have some messages here. This one says, is it possible for federal government to establish cassava factory in Oju, local government of Benue State? This one is coming from Ella Onyetete. Of course, Mr. Raji has left the studio. He will be adequately responded to. Now, the next one says, I am Solomon Newton, based in Lagos, but I have 3 hectares of land in Oyo State. How can I access loan from government? Your message came in before Mr. Raji left the studio. So he said you can just quickly go to the Bank of Industry for further, discussion. The next one says, my name is Buchi Umazi from Ebonyi State. I am a cassava farmer, but our major challenge here is market. I wish Ebonyi farmers could be linked to steady market or off-takers. Thank you. Thank you very much for your messages. Keep them coming. And the next report is actually coming from Lagos, and then we are looking at various snacks made from cassava. Our Lagosians love to take that. I know one that is made from my own part of the world, and it's called Kosen Rogo. If you like cassava cake or something like that. So let's take this report from Lagos.
Cassava, Mani-hot esculenta, is a perennial woody shrub that has an edible root. It is one of the fastest expanding staple food crops in Nigeria. About 30 million farmers are involved in the cultivation of cassava. Despite the huge population of cassava farmers, cassava yields are still suboptimal. It can be processed into varieties of products like gari, cassava chips, and bread. Government's intervention to enhance cassava production has resulted to increased output and also stimulated the rural economy.
You have gari, you have cassava flour, you can eat it raw, you can make your amala, you can use it in different things. There are different things now that we can achieve in cassava. You can even, some people even use it in form of pancake. They will not use it, the powder, the flour, they will use it. There are different things you achieve in cassava farming.
You need wheat flour to make snacks, but you can produce cassava flour and mix it up with wheat flour to produce these same snacks. And all what you just need to do is to mix it up at various degrees. You can have 5% mixture, you can have 10%, you can have 20%, you can even have up to 50%. You can increase the content of cassava flour in wheat flour to make biscuits. So it is a whole lot of it along that value chain for snacks production.
My favorite food happen to be swallow. And there's no way you will like swallow in Africa that you not think of fufu, pounded yam and so on. So I enjoy it. When it is hot time like this, like sunny time, I enjoy it with gari, that is true gari, and sometimes granite or kulikuli. And it's very, very cool.
I like lafu. I use it to mix with, sometimes I mix it with elubo, the yam flour. Sometimes I mix it with wheat. So I use it and prepare my lunch most times.
I like gari, first of all. I always drink gari when I be in the university that time. With ekpa and fish, small fish. We enjoy it. That's when you running, coming back in the school, we just try to miss it and take a daily leave, afternoon leave.
I prefer fufu the most.
So how do you enjoy it?
I prefer it with any type of soup. Basically any soup that is available. That's what I'll take my fufu with.
I love fufu. Personally, I don't like the main, is it gari that they call it? Because sometimes it can get too stuffy that when you take it, it itches the stomach. So I love taking fufu. Then I also, fufu with soup, any other kind of soup that you have, I can take it like maybe like 3 wraps is okay for me. Okay, then I also love gari itself. Gari is cool with cold water. Yeah, Jebu gari. I like it like the one in water with cold water and maybe fish or granules and so.
Concerted efforts are required to effectively position Nigeria cassava producers in regional and international markets to ensure sustainable development of the sector and facilitate improvements in the production, processing, and marketing of cassava without negatively impacting on the food security of the country.
Thank you for staying with us. And of course, the show is still Weekend Day, showing on the largest TV network in Africa. And my producer is just saying it feels like taking Akwu this morning. And of course, you know what that means. That's actually a byproduct of cassava as well. But let's quickly meet our guests. Yes, his name is Ishaq Abdul Karim. He's the chairman association of Master Bakers and caterers of FCT. You're welcome to our studios, Mr. Ishaq Abdul Karim.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Interesting. And I'm sure you must have taken something related to cassava this morning, haven't you?
Not really.
Not really, but you have it in your, your plan today.
No, that's true. In fact, like you say, I want to eat kosenrogoni this morning.
You caught that. Interesting.
Yes,
very, very, very delicious.
Yes, very, very. When we were all young, it was a very nice delicacy. In fact, I remember we normally go to where they produce it to buy.
Interesting.
Very sweet. That was many years before now. I think we have a lot of things to do with cassava.
We have a lot of things to do with cassava.
It's only for us to explore the potentials in cassava.
Okay, now as the FCT chapter chairman of Association of Master Bakers and Caterers, talk to me about ways you have been able to use cassava in most of your activities.
When the cassava project was introduced to bakers, it started with cassava flour separately and the wheat flour separately. And then under the cassava flour, they had what they call an enzyme. You are expected to use 10% of cassava to the 90% of wheat. And then you add that enzyme to it to produce your cassava bread. Later, the millers produce what they call composite flour, which is already mixed together, which was better and easier for every baker. I want to tell you that the first one, I never participated in it because I said it has no common sense. Why should I be bothering myself to be scaling? Let them produce a bag of flour that is already mixed up. It's just for me to carry it and put it in my machine and mix it and do what I want to do, which of course they did. I think that was in 2014. But behold, after 3 months, that product was not in the market again.
Did you care to investigate why?
Who do you ask? It's a millers. And I don't know, probably, I don't know what reason they have. Probably they have operational challenges. Probably they don't have enough of cassava.
Because what I'm hearing, some people are saying that, when with cassava bread, it just takes 1 or 2 days. It stiffens, it gets strong. How true is that?
See, presently, there are a lot of improvers that are designed for cassava flour as well, to enhance it. And even then, I think I participated in this thing. And I don't think for 3 days, that bread was not strong like they are claiming. No, it is very okay. In fact, it will stay for 5 days, which expectedly you will have consumed it. If a bread stays for 5 days unconsumed, it's going to be a different thing. At least ideally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, you should consume it. That bread is very normal. There's nothing wrong with that bread. There's nothing wrong with this cassava composite flour that they introduced.
But it's not in the market.
But it's not in the market. I think, I don't know, I want to probably suggest maybe there should be a legislation for this thing.
Yeah, talking about that, somebody just texting that the National Assembly should help pass the bill that will make the flour mills to add 10 to 20% cassava flour compulsory. This one is coming from Musa Bakar. Musa is from Abuja, is also a baker.
Excellent.
So that means the bakers are very open to the idea of using cassava
No
flour.
problem to it. There's no any problem to it. If it is in the market, we will buy. Let me put it to you. How much are we buying flour today? If assuming 10% of it is included, it will reduce the cost. It will reduce the cost and it will help us. But where is it? I said 3 months after introducing it, you can't find it in the market again, up to today. So if there's no legislation that millers must, like NAFDAC is saying that there must be vitamin A falsified in some of these products, that should be the same thing. I think that is what will make all these millers to include it in their...
So when the federal government, came up with Cassava Bread Intervention Fund, I know a lot of bakers and cassava processors actually had opportunity to access this loan. And what was the end use for it? What was the main target for bakers, really, with that loan?
You know, the loan itself,
yeah,
I think it was targeted to about 5,000 members. But about only 157 members benefited from it all over Nigeria. The essence of it, I think, is that they want to introduce bakers to a chain of when it is produced, it will be used by making them more modern in terms of equipment for production.
Okay.
That was when that loan was given.
So would you have preferred the equipment be given to you or the money?
No. Anywhere you give money, probably it might be mismanaged. But if it is given to you as you require, because I was made to understand that some people demanded for a particular one and a particular one was given to them. I was not part of it. I did not benefit from it. But that, from what I had, like somebody would demand for a particular product, but they will give you another product. But because
example,
maybe you want macadams, they will give you another bedrock. They call it. They have different products that they engage in doing this project. Like they engage some fabricators into it. So I was made to understand that some people demanded for macadams and they were giving other ones. I don't know which other one they give them because I was not part of it. However, I am saying that if today they want to do it, they should restructure it. What they did in the other one, it's like there are errors in the pipeline. They should be open to make sure that it is well done. All the people that got it are not many. If we are giving 150 divided by 36 states, how many people benefit from it?
Even those who got it have not paid back.
Yes. You see, I think it was done in a rush.
Okay.
The steps they are taking now, I think is better done that way.
What steps are they taking now?
Yes. There is training and retraining now, even before the introduction of the next batch.
Okay.
And such a training, you see, like I want to say, look at NASL microfinance.
Okay.
You are made to undergo a mandatory training of utilization of funds so that it will help you in managing whatever you are doing. I think they should do the same here as well, so that anybody that benefits from it will not. Most of them, they had challenges, so paying back was not really too easy. And again, they said, I was not part of it. They said the MOU they agreed on was that 50% loan, 50% grant.
Is that why your association members are, could question that this loan be waived?
Yes, they are, because it was like, at that time, it was a scalar quantity. There was no direction. So the people that collected it, they collected it because they needed it going, but they didn't remember that they are supposed to pay back.
Interesting.
I think that is where the challenge is.
Now, so you're saying that Nigerians are quite open to the idea of you having, cassava bread in the market when you talk about this composite. Now, in your own opinion, how can we really revive this?
The only way to revive it is to introduce the flour into the market. Shebi, you go to market now, you buy different varieties. If you are interested in producing cassava flour, which of course we are all interested, I said, look at my brother, we are all Nigerians. The value chain is what we are talking about. How many graduates do we have? If it is done, and probably some of the graduates will go into agri, like it is being encouraged, and you produce, it's sold. What are we talking about? The industry becomes bigger, and the value chain becomes bigger as well. So what we are saying is that there should be a lot of sensitization and opportunities for the younger ones. And you can hear, they said, I'm sure the flour millers are saying, I heard them saying that they don't have enough cassava, that people prefer to use their cassava for gari, apple, and other things.
Quickly, let's talk about this use of cassava in daily. Today, going to the market to buy bread, a loaf of bread is very, very expensive. And we know that the idea of introducing that 10% of cassava into the mix is to reduce also the price of, bread. Talk to us further about that.
Yes. Today, a bag of flour is between 20,200 and 20,600, depending on the brand. I am very sure if 10% of it is included, it will reduce the price. 10% of cassava flour is into the wheat flour. It will reduce it to a certain percent. I am not in that field. I wouldn't know how much. But I have the belief that it will reduce the cost to a smaller level. And that translates to we that are producing. See, the cost of a bag of sugar today is how much? A bag of sugar, they just increased the price 2 weeks ago. It was 20,200. Now it's 21,200. How do you do it?
And that would definitely have effect on the price of bread.
Exactly. Everything has increased. That's why the price of bread has increased. But if we will have this, number one, 10% inclusive. A farmer, look at somebody, say he's a graduate, he's now producing cassava. And then, like I was saying the other time, why are people going to convert their dish into gari instead of giving it to industrialists to process it and add value to it? That's why the person that is suggesting that federal government, the legislation, there should be a legislation that 10% of it must be included by the flour millers. I think it will bring a lot of, it will create a lot of jobs, because wherever you are producing, you will not say you don't have a buyer. The buyers are already there looking for it. That's the way I look at it. Yes.
You were talking about the fact that with 10% achieve, the country will save about 200 and something.
255 billion naira will be saved. See, I think we just need to expand the production of cassava. The way I'm managed to do it, me, I'm a baker, I don't know. But if it will be done, I am telling you that the economy, see, sir, look at all these costs today. They said because COVID, because of the flour today in the market, wheat flour, I mean. Why? They said because of COVID-19, there is no wheat farming, blah, blah, blah. The one that they have, the price has increased. The amount they are buying it before is not the amount they are buying it today. And I think I need to stop there, because by the time I talk too much, my viewers will not be happy with me.
The next one is coming from, we applied for a loan of cassava in an area office, in area 11 office, Gimbia Street. The manager has been playing around with us, and we paid 7,500 since early this year. Up till now, we have not seen any positive result from the association. My name is Salisu Usman. Now, what is the name of your association? And do you people hold a regular meeting? I think you should take it up with the chairman of that association. And then I don't see the reason why you should pay money to acquire loan. It's a loan, of course. So this one says, does it mean that cassava flour alone cannot be used for braid production? This one is actually a question. So
no, 100% no. Like I said, I had the opportunity to go for training in one of the flour millers' school of training. They said beyond 10% would not give a very good result. But let them start the 10%. If 10% is done, maybe gradually as research is going on, they can improve on what you have. Let us start it first. Let the flour millers be compelled to do it. If they don't compel them, I don't think, because I don't know their reasons, but they should be compelled to increase 10% of this.
They are also complaining, and you attest to it, the fact that they don't have enough cassava. Not enough. A lot of people prefer to consume it themselves.
They are declaring billions of naira. Billions. When we the bakers are crying, they are declaring profit. Let them go and open farm now and create employment where all these things can be done.
Okay, apparently Mr. Raji Hakim is still, with us on the show. I'm sure he's still watching. He's just texting. He says loan on agriculture should be Bank of Agriculture and not BOI. Loan on agriculture can be sourced from commercial banks as well, and Bank of Agriculture. Thank you very much for that information. Now, as a way forward, Mr. Hakim, talk to us. What can we do differently in order to ensure that the bakers, get the value for their money, and ensuring that there's that, increased 10%, sorry, a mix of that 10% of cassava flour in our daily, bread consumption?
A baker has no any option. Whatever he gets, he uses. If I go to market now, I will not say I want to buy cassava flour. I want to buy flour, whether it is golden penny, whether it's crown flour, mix and bake, whatever, dangote, whatever. It's already included, so I don't even have any option. And that is good for us, not only as bakers, it's good for us as Nigerians, because the economy will not be suffering. We create opportunity for jobs for our younger ones. Today, look at it, every of these people, I say, I'm a graduate. No job. Where there's opportunity for job everywhere. So those are the things I say. We bakers are very willing to use it, but we cannot find it. Let them put it to the market, we'll buy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ishaq Abdul Rahim.
Thank you, sir.
He's the chairman, Association of Master Bakers and Caterers of the AFCT. We must realize as a nation that the production, processing, and availability of this rural infrastructure must, be made in order to, maximize the potential of cassava in the country. That does it for the day, and I'm sure it has been a time well spent with us. See you next weekend. Bye for now.